Have you ever woken up ready for life? You go to work, you sit down at your desk only to realize that you actually have an action figure in your pocket. Like you didn't do it on purpose, it just kind of happened. Well, if that's happened to you, it's okay. We're all on that same boat. We've all walked into a number of different situations where we just had a random action figure in our pocket, whether that's like a doctor's office or work or whatever the case may be. It's okay. This is a completely judge-free zone. But anyways, all jokes aside, let's get straight into today's video because I actually wanted to do something that we've been doing pretty consistently on this channel. I'll do it like every couple of weeks or every month or so, where we essentially just go on Aliexpress and check to see if there's any new killer deals. As you guys may know, Aliexpress does offer, whether it's knockoff or unofficial licensed products, whether it's Marvel Legends, NECA, DC Multiverse, so on and so forth. They usually either offer stuff that's been like quality rejected by those particular manufacturers, or in other cases, it's just them acquiring the body molds and then mass producing stuff that they don't have the rights to. So I don't know how you personally feel about Aliexpress, but it's always cool to just go on there and check to see if they have anything cool. It's not really about what you believe in or what you feel comfortable with, but at the end of the day, they exist. And I think it's important to acknowledge them, especially if some of these items or some of these collectibles have gotten way out of your price range. We know a lot of NECA action figures completely sold out and are very difficult to find. Same thing with Hasbro. A lot of Hasbro lines and a lot of McFarlane lines as well. So it's an alternative. It's something to think about. A lot of people actually pick these up just for the sake of like customizing or having extra custom fodder, whether it's a head sculpt or an extra body mold or something like that. It's always fun to play around with, and you don't have to pay the expensive markup from the original retailer, especially if you're not really going to acquire the figure for the character itself. You just want a piece of that particular figure. I think Aliexpress is a perfect alternative. But without wasting any more saliva or breath, let's get straight into it. They do have this knockoff monster Venom Marvel Legends action figure, which is pretty interesting. This is going for $15. Now, at the moment of this recording, you could get it for $15 as a welcome deal. Sometimes these prices change. I will say that's one of the main reasons why I don't like posting the link in the description, because sometimes the listing will completely disappear or they'll change the prices. I think it's a matter of like, it's a matter of finding the right promotion at the right time. So these listings consistently change, or they sell out incredibly quick because of the high demand. Here you're paying $15 for a monster Marvel Legends Venom. I think for the most part, this has fluctuated in price, the original one anyways. I've seen them for as low as like $50 to as high as like $110 back in the day when they didn't have the deluxe release. I think this is supposed to be based on the original Build-A-Figure, because I think the Build-A-Figure had that type of color palette or that shade work, but I could be mistaken. Overall, it's the same body mold though, regardless of which one you prefer. It's the same body, it's the same articulation scheme. So this is an intricate idea here. It's a deluxe figure. If you don't want to pay the markup, or if you don't want to pay the secondary marketplaces, $15 just to try it out, just as a test run, I don't think is that bad. Not to mention, most of the ones that I'm going to mention in today's video, they have pretty good solid reviews. Not great reviews. Some of these are in the low 4s, but most of them are like mid 4s to, you know, close to 5s. So overall, most of the consumers have had pretty good experiences with these figures. Next up, not really a Marvel Legends action figure, and not really an action figure per se, but they're these small little collectibles that I ran into. They're these like small Predator figures. They're kind of like little mini statues. I dare say they're closer to like Funko Pops. I think they mentioned that they're similar to Q-Figs maybe. I don't even know what that is. That could be a statue line that I don't know of, but they look more to me like Funko Pops. They have the big heads, the small bodies, but they're different versions of the Predator action, or the Predator characters, which is pretty cool. I'm not really a big huge fan of Predator. I do like the films, but I don't necessarily have any Predators in my collection. But I've often said, if you're looking for just something cool to have on your desk, or just kind of like some filler pieces, Aliexpress is always a great option. These are going for $1 as of the moment of the recording, and you could bundle. There is a shipping fee, I think, for these, like $4, but you could bundle them, and if I'm not mistaken, they don't charge you for each individual item. If you're buying from the same seller, they'll usually give you a deal when it comes down to shipping. So you could ideally be picking up like 4 of these, and altogether you would pay, I don't know, like $9-10 maybe for 4 of these, which isn't really that bad, just as a quick trial. They look pretty good, and as I mentioned previously, these actually have great raving reviews. If you guys like these type of small collectibles, this is definitely a good opportunity for you to pick up on some very affordable figures from overseas. Next up, I did run across the MCU version of Deadpool as well as Wolverine. These are supposed to be the Legacy Cadet Collection, if I'm not mistaken. Well, both of these are supposed to be as close as you can get to the originals without having to pay the original price point. At the moment of this recording, they were offering them for about $8 with free shipping, which really isn't that bad. Now, usually these action figures, when they're offering something that's semi brand new, they'll add like an extra accessory or an extra cloth good or an extra weapon or something along those lines. Here, I think you're getting exactly what you got with the original retail collectible, but still $8. It's definitely worth a trial. Now, it is worth mentioning, and just an FYI, that the rating for this particular listing is a little bit lower than what I'm used to for most of the figures on this list. Like usually they're in the 4s, at least low 4s. This one is at a 3.7 out of about 200 sold action figures. So just be very wary, be very careful. I believe Aliexpress does offer like free returns. So just be aware that you may run into some QC problems if you receive any of these, though. You do have that kind of protection. It's kind of like eBay. They're usually all about the consumer. And so just be careful when you're purchasing from these. Make sure that it's the correct item and make sure that it's in good condition when you receive it, open it, articulate it, all that good stuff. If for any reason you run into problems, you should be able to return it. But yeah, this one is definitely a slightly lower rated figure or collectible than we're usually used to on these type of lists. Then we have that exclusive windowless Moonlight Marvel Legends action figure. This one is supposed to be going for about $13. Now, at the moment of this recording, there weren't like a ton of sales for this particular figure. There were only 5 total, but all 5 of them gave this figure a 5-star. According to the description, this is supposed to be like the actual original action figure. I'm not sure why they were stuck overseas, but they were. I'm not sure if this was selling well or flying off the shelves or not, but at least what I can see in the listing and the description, it makes it seem like maybe this figure wasn't selling as well, and maybe a few of them were stuck in a warehouse or in a storage somewhere overseas, and maybe they were able to just clearance these figures out. Regardless, $13 really isn't that bad if you don't have a proper Moonlight like comic book accurate action figure in your display. This is a great option for you. And this one does come with a decent amount of accessories, not a crazy ton of them, but you still get some extra hands and some extra accessories here and there. And so I definitely feel like that $13 price point is at least worth a little bit of a risk. Next up, I did run into this Marvel Select Rhino action figure, and this one was a hot commodity for a long extended period of time. I remember this Marvel Select going on eBay for like well over $100. It was highly sought after because the Marvel Legends Rhino was also very difficult to find. Now it's a little bit more accessible, and I think most of as well as the knockoffs have dropped quite a bit in value and in price. The Marvel Select one is a little bit more difficult to find than the Marvel Legends one because the Select one hasn't had a restock recently, whereas in the Legends one just had like, I don't know, 3 to 4 different restocks in the last few years. There was the original Build-A-Figure, then they just decided to release the retro carded version about like 3 to 4 times. But if you guys want a cheaper alternative that is much bigger than the Marvel Legends version, this one is a great version as well. You're looking at about like $30. I believe at the moment of this recording there was free shipping being included, so $30 really isn't that bad. I've heard great things about this custom, and it's much bigger, beefier, wider, which is what a lot of people prefer for their Marvel or just their Rhino in general on their display. Granted, this one isn't going to get into any crazy intricate dynamic poses, but at least you have a proper representation of Rhino if you want a bigger and beefier one rather than the Marvel Legends one, which I think is like barely over 7 inches, which was a little bit disappointing to a lot of people. He is accurate to the source material that they were basing it on, but there have been other comic book series or other particular storylines where Rhino was usually featured as like a big gigantic behemoth of a character. Next up, I wanted to show a little bit of love to the Halo franchise. I don't usually talk about Halo because if I'm not mistaken, the last line that we got from the Halo universe was Jazzwares. I could be wrong. I don't quite remember. We did pick up a couple of those figures, and they were decent offerings, but I did run across this listing for some Halo-based action figures. There's supposed to be a Master Chief one, and then a couple of other characters. There does appear to come, these figures do appear to come with a plethora of different different hands, extra accessories, weapons, things of that nature. And as you guys can see, there's about 60 of these sold up to this point, and there's a 4.2 rating on these figures, which really isn't that bad. I've said it before, sometimes even the original retailer collectibles or action figures come with a ton of issues, and so a 4.2 for a knockoff figure from overseas really isn't that bad. It's worth a little bit of a tryout. Again, $16 with free shipping, usually for these type of action figures. And I don't quite remember what the original manufacturer was for this little set, but I do remember some of these figures being sold. They were like imported figures from some manufacturer, and they were being sold for like well over $100. So if the alternative knockoff goes for about $16, as I mentioned prior, you might want to try them out just to see if they fit, just to see if the quality is at least there. And then if not, you can always return it. And then lastly, I actually wanted to talk about a new listing that I ran across that has to do with the manufacturer that I personally do not even keep up with. I do have a few NECA action figures here and there, but for the most part, it's not a line that I jump into. But I did run across this and I wanted to share it with you guys. They do have some of those GameStop exclusive live action Ninja Turtle action figures. Now, I'm not 100% sure if these were exclusive to GameStop. As I just mentioned, I really didn't keep up with them, but in the box, or at least in the promotional image that they took, it does say that it was a GameStop exclusive, maybe upon their original release. You have Mikey, you have Donnie. These figures do look extremely well put together. And as I've been mentioning with almost every single entry into today's video, these releases do appear to be absolute fire, because the rating for these is a 4.4 out of 5, which, as I already mentioned this a number of different times, but sometimes not even the original manufacturer can get ratings like that, which leads me to believe that these are at least pretty good quality. Maybe not as good as the original TMNT NECA action figures, but they're at least formidable enough to like display, because the 4.4 rating, that's absolutely no joke. Especially on Aliexpress, from time to time you'll have like random collectibles that pop up in there, and they'll have like a 1 or a 2 star, which clearly is a giant red flag. Like, none of these listings should be any less than like at least a high 3, I would say, like bare minimum for you to take the risk on. But $4, you may have to pay a little bit on shipping by the time you actually click on this particular listing, because at the moment of the recording, I believe the shipping had gone all the way down to like $6-7. But just check it out. Again, even if you're paying like $10 a pop, it's really not that bad. NECA action figures on the secondary market, especially if they're very difficult to find, can get extremely, like, just crazy expensive. So this is a good alternative if you're just jumping into NECA TMNT figures and you don't want to pay, you know, like triple digits for each one of these figures. Aliexpress has got you. Okay, it like I said, it's a little bit of an experiment. You test them out. If for any reason they're absolute garbage, you can always just return them. But anyways, that's where I'm going to end the video. I've rambled. I've spit enough saliva at you guys. That I just wanted to showcase a few collectibles, mostly Marvel Legends action figures, but I threw in, you know, a few other lines in there just to keep it a little bit more interesting. But these are absolutely killer deals. If you guys haven't checked these out by the time the video goes up, definitely do so, because I do believe, as I mentioned earlier, these figures do sell out pretty quickly and they go in and out of stock. And especially with the deals, we're consistently seeing it, especially with the whole tariff situation, where a lot of these collectibles actually go up in price like every 3 to 4 months. I'm assuming that the stock overseas, or I should say the stock here, like sells out for some reason, and then everything that you're seeing at like $30 to $40 that used to be like $10, I'm assuming is getting shipped from overseas. So I'm not sure if they're like finding a loophole to ship everything here, and then once it sells from here, you can actually get those crazy deals. But yeah, you're consistently seeing it with collectibles. They go in and out of stock and the price just really fluctuates. And right now is a prime opportunity to pick up some knockoff Aliexpress action figures. But as always, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. Let me know your thoughts down below. Have you guys picked up any of these? Do you plan on picking up any of them? Have you ever tried anything from Aliexpress? Have you had good results or bad ones? Very curious to see what everybody has to say. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned. We're uploading on a daily basis. We have so much fun putting it together for you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy it just as much. As always, make sure to follow us on Instagram as well. I do plan on uploading, or I should say posting more on there, and then also posting on the community little post tab on the channel, because I want to connect a little bit more. I haven't been doing it as much. I'm definitely going to try to change that. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.